Part 18. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 171. Chapter 171 Chapter 171 When did you become so humble? If I don't force her, I'm afraid that she will never be willing to face her heart for the rest of her life. I'm worried that she will go too far and make her sad. Fuchinexio said with his eyebrows raised. When Yoru tapped his index finger on the table, Senior, when did you become so humble? There's no harm in being humble in front of your lover, Fuchinexio answered as he should. When Yoru was caught off guard by a mouthful of dog food. When are you going to go back? Fuchinexio's mind was filled with Zhang Xiao's red eyes. He felt heartbroken and wanted to see her. When Yoru's eyes widened, staring at Fuchinexio, and said dissatisfiedly, Senior, don't burn bridges too fast. Anyway, I still have to work hard in the kitchen all morning today. The reward is not here. Fuchinexio signed his name on the end of the document on the table with a pen and handed it to Wenyoru. Do you need me to help you invite the man back? Wenyoru's face stiffened, his eyelashes trembled, and a bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. No, if he doesn't want to come back, he will still leave if you ask him to come back. Senior, thank you for your help at school, but I have no fate with him after all. Bar. Give up. It's not giving up, it's letting go. When Yoru stood up straight, picked up his documents, and walked slowly to the door. He paused when he reached the door. Senior, maybe I should learn from you, love someone as I was too stupid to try my best to keep him by my side. Zhang Xiao played chess with the old man with red eyes. This time I played chess without giving in to the old man. It can be said that every move was made with murderous intent. Mr. Fu frowned, his turbid eyes stared at the chessboard motionless, and his forehead was covered with beads of sweat. The chess pieces in his hands were making cross stalk, but he still didn't move. Zhang Xiao also urged him when he was young. Suddenly a slender white finger appeared on the chessboard and moved a chess piece. Mr. Fu laughed out loud on the spot and said to himself, yes, why didn't I think of leaving like this? When I was young, Grandpa, you should admit defeat. Grandpa will definitely win this game for you, Grandpa said excitedly. Zhang Xiao followed his gaze upwards and saw Wenyoru's gentle face. His face became gloomy without concealing it. He frowned and started playing chess with her. The old man was still happy at the time, but when Zhang Xiao took the second step, his face became serious again. Wenyoru responded with ease. Girl Wen, come and sit down. I can't get off her. Come and help me get off. Mr. Fu moved to the side to make room for Wenyoru. Uncle Fu, it's better to be respectful than to obey orders, Wenyoru said politely. Wenyoru sat down to play chess with Zhang Xiaoxi. The opponent was Wenyoru, and Zhang Xiaoxi used 100% of his strength. When Fuchinexio went downstairs, both of them frowned and fell into thinking. Let's go, Mr. Fu suggested from the side. Ms. Zhang shook her head and said, Grandpa, her cavalry will eat my general right away. Mr. Fu looked at the endgame in front of him and couldn't help but rub his head. Watching these two little girls playing chess was even more exciting than watching it on TV. Zhang Xiao thought for a long time before firing a cannon. Wenyoru also fell into thinking, wondering what to do next. Dumbo, her general has no way to escape. Fuchinexio's low-pitched voice sounded. Zhang Xiao put down the chess pieces and glared at Fuchinexio, very angry, watching the chess without saying a word. Don't you even know such a simple truth, Uncle Wu? End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 172. Chapter 172 Chapter 172 Looking at her with a half-smile. Fuchinexio stared at Zhang Xiaoxio's angry little face for a long time, his deeply furrowed brows slowly relaxed, and his deep eyes looked at Zhang Xiaoxi with a smile but not a smile. Zhang Xiaoxiao saw that Fu Jianxiao not only showed no signs of getting angry, but also looked at her with a half-smile. He was a little confused. He didn't look at his cold face and moved his eyes back to the chessboard. Wen Yuuru did not follow what Fu Jianxiao said, but followed his own ideas. When Zhang Xiaoxiao saw her leaving, the corners of his mouth slightly curved, and he moved his taxi with his fingers, triumphantly saying, "Miss Wen, I accept the offer." Wen Yuuru smiled as gently as ever. "When I was little, I was really good at chess. I'm afraid your fifth uncle is the only one who can compete with you in a game here. When I was young, you and your fifth uncle came to play a game. Grandpa would be better off." The old man was in a state of excitement. Okay, Zhang Xiaozai felt a lot of dissatisfaction in his heart. He took advantage of the chessboard to vent his anger and looked at the boss provocatively. Fu Jianxiao always had a smile in his eyes. Wen Yuuru gave up his seat and Fu Jianxiao sat down. The chessboard was rearranged. Zhang Xiaoxiao left first. His move was a move that would prevent Fu Jianxiao from moving the chess pieces. Fu Jianxiao avoided her calmly. Zhang Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly and continued to lay the trap according to the trap he thought. The two of them played one step at a time and I followed the other, which made the old man on the side look excited, as if he was playing chess by himself. Occasionally, he would express his opinions, but no one listened to his opinions. At the last move of chess, when Zhang Xiaoxi was about to end the chess game with satisfaction, Fu Jianxiao moved a chess piece and reversed the scene on the chessboard, directly knocking out Zhang Xiaoxiao's general. Zhang Xiao looked at the outcome on the chessboard with disbelief. His face was gloomy and his brows were knitted together, as if he couldn't figure out why he lost. Fu Jianxiao rubbed her head and said in a smiling voice, "When I was young, my chess skills improved a lot." Zhang Xiaoxiao clenched his fists angrily. His words sounded like a mockery to her. He stood up suddenly with a gloomy face. "I'm sleepy, so I went up to bed first. Grandpa is calling me after dinner." Zhang Xiaoxi left with an unhappy look on his face. The old man slapped Fu Jianxiao twice. "You brat, you don't know how to give in to Xiaoxiao. You taught her chess skills. How can she beat you? Look at Xiaoxi, the girl is unhappy." Fu Jianxiao's eyes stayed at the place where Zhang Xiaoxiao disappeared, and the corners of his mouth widened, as if he was stupid. This move made the old man frown. Could it be that the son was beaten stupid by him? Wen Yuuru naturally wondered what he was laughing at, and knew that he should leave. He turned to the old man and said goodbye politely. "Uncle Fu, Senior, help me correct the documents. I need to take care of it, so I'll leave first." As soon as the old man heard that she was leaving, he naturally asked her to stay. You, there is still an hour for dinner. You are leaving after dinner. Uncle has something to say to you." "Uncle, we will have a lot of time to meet in the future, you can talk to me freely. How about I ask the driver to take you back to process the documents and then pick you up for dinner?" The old man took a step back, just wanting to keep her. Wen Yuuru glanced at Fu Jianxiao in confusion. "Sister, please stay, I'll take you back tonight," Fu Jianxiao said. Wen Yuuru. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 173. Chapter 173. Chapter 173. She doesn't want to eat it. Wen Yuuru stayed at Fu's house like this. She originally thought that Fu Jianxiao was going to visit Zhang Xiaoxiao. To her surprise, Fu Jianxiao called her to the study room and helped her solve some work matters. It wasn't until Fu Yan called for dinner that Wen Yuuru changed the topic from work. "Senior, aren't you going to coax your little heart?" "Now is not the time," Fu Jianxiao replied calmly. Wen Yuuru's curved eyebrows raised slightly. She was a little confused about Fujinexiu's operation. Her purpose of making Zhang Xiaoxi jealous was achieved, so she kindly reminded her, "It's not good if the senior goes too far. I have my own sense of proportion." Zhang Xiao was bored in the room for 2 hours. If Fu Yan hadn't called for dinner, she really didn't want to go downstairs. From the bottom of her heart, she refused to see Fujinexiu and Wenyuoru, even though Wenyuoru was her boss. "Xiao Xiao, you didn't eat anything at noon, eat more at night." Fu Yan was concerned and put some of Zhang Xiao's favorite dishes on the table into her bowl. "Thank you, third aunt." Zhang Xiao lowered his head and ate the food in a low mood, but his eyes uncontrollably glanced in the direction of Fujinexiu and Wenyuoru. Just then, she saw Fujinexiu carefully removing the fish bones for Wenyuoru and putting the fish meat in her bowl. Originally, this interaction was perfect, but Zhang Xiaoxi was not happy no matter what. Instead, he felt extremely bored. The boss was a scumbag. He used to only treat Miss Baiyu Egwang well, but now that he met the one he liked, he immediately changed. Zhang Xiaoxi's resentful gaze was too strong, which caught Fujinexiu's attention. Fujinexiu hid a smile deep in his eyes, pursed his thin lips, picked up a piece of fish, removed the thorns and put it in Zhang Xiaoxi's bowl. Middle. Zhang Xiaoxiao glanced at the fish in the bowl. The anger in his heart was suppressed again and again. He puffed up his cheeks and picked out the fish. He still kept it aside and glared at the boss angrily. "She will not eat the food that has been served to other women." Fujinexiu watched as he picked out the fish meat, his face tensed and his lips thin, and he stared at her solemnly. Fu Yan was already suspicious of Fujinexiu and Zhang Xiaoxiao, so she would naturally pay more attention to them. They had interacted so much just now, and she could see that she was worried. "Xiaoxiao, third aunt, you don't have much appetite. Do you want to go upstairs to rest?" "Okay." Zhang Xiaoxiao suppressed her discomfort. If she ate here again, she might not be able to control her temper. If she scared away the person of his affection, she would lose more than she gained, so she went upstairs obediently. "Better." So I just ignored the boss's expression and went upstairs. As soon as he took a step up the steps, he heard the boss's deep, melodious, and gentlemanly voice, "Sister, I'll take you back." Zhang Xiaoxiao was suddenly filled with congestion, and angrily ran up the stairs, making a loud noise, which made the old man worried. "When I was little, it's Grandpa, Grandpa, take your favorite spicy strips and open the door for Grandpa." The old man knocked on the door and listened worriedly to the sounds inside. He came up right after Fujinexiu sent Wenyuoru home. It had been almost 2 minutes and the little girl hadn't opened the door yet, so why didn't he worry? If you don't open the door, Grandpa has to get the key." The old man's words were still in his throat when the door opened, and what came into his eyes was Zhang Xiaoxiao's face that looked like he had been crying just now. The old man's heart clenched and he felt distressed. "Xiao Xiao, what's wrong? Tell Grandpa who bullied you." End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 174. Chapter 174. Chapter 174. Do you like Wenyuoru? Zhang Xiaoxiao shook his head and said aggrievedly, "Grandpa, no one bullies me." Zhang Xiaodu said with this expression. Of course the old man would not believe her words and looked at her with distress. "Xiao Xiao, if you have any grievances, tell Grandpa, Grandpa will make the decision for you." "No, I have no grievances," Zhang Xiao said, and golden beans swarmed from his eyes. The old man looked at her helplessly with spicy strips in his hand, and comforted her clumsily. "Child, don't cry. Grandpa's heart is broken when you cry. Go in and tell Grandpa what's going on." Zhang Xiao broke down and was pulled into the room by the old man. The old man sat on the sofa and asked distressedly, "Grandpa's precious granddaughter, please stop crying. If you have anything, you can tell Grandpa. Grandpa will make the decision for you." Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at the old man with twitching eyes and stammered, "Grandpa, fifth uncle, want me." The old man is such a shrewd person. He can figure out the clues at once, grasp the key points, and understand why she cried. "When I was young, your fifth uncle would not want you. He doesn't want you and Grandpa wants you. Be good and don't cry." Zhang Shi felt that her emotions were out of control since she went upstairs, so when the old man knocked on the door, she hurriedly ran to wash her face. Unexpectedly, she still couldn't hold it back. She hugged the old man's arm and cried aggrievedly, "Grandpa, Uncle Wu used to only pick up food for me, but when you took away my favor." The old man was dumbfounded and rubbed the top of her hair, lovingly comforting her, "When you will not take away your fifth uncle's love from you. Grandpa promises that when you and your fifth uncle will love you together in the future." "Grandpa, I felt uncomfortable when I was little, woo woo woo." The little girl was jealous, and the old man had no choice but to explain it away. After all, Zhang Xiao had been with Fu Chenxiu for more than 10 years. This kind of relationship was not ordinary. Now that there was someone to share her love, it was normal for her to be confused, but can slowly enlighten. When you are young, you will meet someone who loves you more than your fifth uncle. No one can separate you from that kind of love. Zhang Xiao felt aggrieved, so no matter what the old man said, she couldn't stop crying. "I also decided in my heart that the boss is a scumbag." Fu Chenxiu returned to his old home to pick up Zhang Shi after seeing Wen Yuru off. Zhang Xiao's eyes were red and swollen, and he sat in the passenger seat silently. Crying, Fu Chenxiu asked after the car drove for a while. Hearing his voice, Zhang Xiaoxiao moved his body to face the window, and answered the boss in a muffled voice, "No. Do you like Wen Yuru?" Jiang's heart felt like it was blocked when she was young. She felt extremely uncomfortable. The boss asked her if she liked Wen Yuru. If she said she didn't like it, how could he not like her? So this question was completely redundant. She didn't want to answer her. "Would you be happy if Uncle Wu married her?" Zhang Xiaoxiao originally thought that if she remained silent, the boss would stop talking. It seemed that she was wrong. She replied in a bad tone, "You can marry whoever you want. It's none of my business." Fu Chenxiu's lips curved and he continued to speak, "Since you don't have any objections, then fifth uncle should try to socialize with her. After all, he and you were schoolmates before, so we know each other quite well. Fifth uncle, you don't have to tell me how you decided. I don't want to hear it, and I'm not interested in hearing it." Zhang Xiaoxiao glared at Fu Chenxiu angrily. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 175. Chapter 175. Chapter 175. Men are indeed fickle. After Zhang Xiaoxi yelled like that, the two of them didn't say a word. As soon as the car stopped at the Nangziyuan underground garage, Zhang Xiaoxi got out of the car. The car door was opened and closed, making a loud noise. Fu Chenxiu looked at the retreating back of a certain angry person, and the arc of his thin lips became wider and wider. A sweet laugh even escaped from his throat. Zhang Xiao returned to his room with unknown emotions. The first thing he did when he returned to the room was to use a sofa and a stool to block the door leading to the boss's room. After blocking the door, he didn't want to see the boss. Scumbag. In the car, he had the nerve to ask himself if he was crying. Was he blind? Can't you see her eyes are swollen? If there had been a slight change in the expression on Miss Baiyu Egwang's face before, he would have noticed it long ago. Not to mention Miss Baiyu Egwang crying, men are indeed fickle. Zhang Xiao was complaining about the boss in her heart. If someone were to see her expression at this moment, they would definitely think that she was a resentful woman who caught her husband cheating on her. Fu Chenxiu parked the car, returned to his room, took a shower, put on his pajamas, and walked to the door connected to Zhang Xiao's room door. He put his slender fingers on the doorknob and twisted it gently. Then his eyebrows gathered together, helpless. He smiled and then returned to his bed. The next day, Fu Chenxiao had been sitting in the dining room for a long time, and did not wait for Zhang Xiao to come down. He frowned and said to the servant next to him, "Go and see if Zhang Xiao is awake." The servant didn't dare to delay. He quickly went upstairs, stood in front of Zhang Xiaoxi's door and knocked. "Miss, are you awake? Mr. Wu is waiting for you to come downstairs for dinner." Zhang Xiao was curled up on the bed with a pale face. She lied to the boss yesterday to come to her aunt, and today she came to see her. It was still so painful that she was dying. Hearing the knock on the door, she couldn't answer. "I don't want to eat, please ask Uncle Wu not to wait for me." Hearing her answer, the servant stopped knocking on the door to report to Fu Chenxiao. "Fifth master, the young lady said she doesn't want to eat." Fu Chenxiao lowered his indifferent eyebrows, put down the newspaper in his hand, stood up, and went upstairs. "Hello, open the door, don't let Uncle Wu tear down the door," Fu Chenxiao threatened directly at the door without knocking. Zhang Xiao's temples, which were already painful, were twitching, and the boss threatened him twice. His mood at this moment was not beautiful. He endured the cramping pain in his lower abdomen, got off the bed, and walked to the door step by step, looking at she wanted to leash the sofa that she had used to block the door. This time my aunt was in more pain than before. When Zhang Xiao moved the stool and things away, she almost collapsed, her calves were shaking, and she struggled to open the door. Immediately after his legs became weak, his whole body fell into a wide chest, and a faint scent of wood and sandalwood came to his nostrils. The scent of sandalwood was so good that Zhang Xiao moved his small nose slightly and took a few sniffs. Fu Chenxiao held Zhang Xiaoxiao's hand with one hand, lowered his eyes, and stared at her pale and sweaty little face. His face sank, and he directly held her in his arms and strode towards the bed. "Uncle Wu, I have a stomachache." Zhang Xiao weakly grabbed the corner of Fu Chenxiao's clothes with his small hands. Fu Chenxiao frowned and made a deep mark. He hugged her directly and lay on the bed. He put his warm palms on her belly and whispered softly, "Did you eat something cold without carrying me on your back yesterday?" "No, Aunt just came today." "I lied to you that day." Zhang Xiao was as uncomfortable as a kitten, curled up in Fu Chenxiao's arms. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 176. Chapter 176. Chapter 176. Embarrassment. After Zhang Xiaoxiao finished speaking, he stared at Fu Chenxiao nervously. "Well," Fu Chenxiao lowered his head and kissed the top of her hair. Zhang Xiaoxiao saw that he was lifeless, lowered his head, and continued to press into his arms, inhaling the good-smelling sandalwood fragrance from his body. "Want to drink the brown sugar water that day?" Fu Chenxiao asked softly, rubbing her back with distress. "Don't want. The boss put too much in the brown sugar water that day, which hurt my throat." Zhang Xiaoxi refused in such a hurry. Fu Chenxiao couldn't help but smile. "Don't worry, I'll let the servant cook." Zhang Xiaoxiao felt a little embarrassed when someone saw through him at once. His face turned red and he looked at Fu Chenxiao sadly. He said softly, "Uncle Fifth, if you see through it, don't tell me." Fu Chenxiao smiled warmly and hugged Zhang Xiaoxi, covering almost half of Zhang Xiaoxi's body, and wrapped her tightly in a quilt. "I'll ask the servant to bring you some hot food to warm yourself up and eat. I'm sleeping." "No, I don't want to eat." Zhang Xiao didn't want to eat anything now. The cramping pain in her lower abdomen made her really have no appetite. Hearing her little voice, Fu Chenxiao felt heartbroken and worried. He gently rubbed his hand. Fifth uncle, I remember you have never been so weak before. Do you want your uncle Guanyang to come and take a look? Zhang Xiao didn't know it would be so painful this time. She had been here and there a few times, but nothing like this. The pain was so intense that her internal organs ached and she didn't want to leave the big bed at all. I don't know if it's because the boss was rough on her before this time, so it hurts so much. Just thinking about this made Zhang Xiao hate the boss, but he didn't have the strength to retaliate. Also, Guanyang is not an obstetrician and gynecologist, so there is no use in calling him Uncle Wu. No, I just want to sleep, Zhang Xiao replied weakly. Fu Chenexai wasn't talking to her, he just held her quietly and closed his eyes. Zhang Xiao woke up again. It was already dusk. The reason for waking up was simple. She felt between her legs, the sticky feeling made my aunt feel strong. With a slight movement, the person hugging her opened her eyes and said in a hoarse voice, "You're awake. Does your stomach still hurt?" Zhang Xiao's face was unnaturally red. She had been held by the boss for almost a day and slept. She was inexplicably greedy for the boss's arms. "Uncle Wu, I want to go to the bathroom." Fu Chenexai's black eyes flashed and he was silent for a second. "Do you want me to carry you?" "Need not." Fu Chenexai let go of his hand, and Zhang Xiaoxi nimbly walked from the bed to the bathroom. Through the mirror in the bathroom, he saw a large area of dark red on his pants, and Zhang Xiaoxi felt a little embarrassed. Fortunately, there was a change of clothes in the bathroom. Zhang Xiao tidied up in the bathroom before slowly going out of the bathroom. When he went out, he ran into a wall of people. Zhang Xiao was hit with tears in his eyes. "Uncle Wu, I saw you haven't come out for so long, and I was worried." Fu Chenexai's tall figure completely surrounded Zhang Xiaoxi. Zhang Xiaoxi listened to his words, and his heartbeat accelerated. He slowly raised his head. When he saw a dark red spot on Fu Chenexai's clothes, his face suddenly turned red. He felt that he was ashamed to see anyone. He heard the voice in a weak voice, "5 uncle, on your clothes?" Fu Chenexai lowered his head and looked at where her finger was, his expression unchanged and extremely calm. "Just change it. I asked the servant to boil brown sugar water for you and put it on the bedside." End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 177. Chapter 177. Chapter 177. Really not. When Zhang Xiao saw the bowl of brown sugar water, his heart was warmed. As a girl, it would be a lie not to be moved when seeing this scene, and the big guy didn't even care that he soiled his clothes just now. My heart is filled to the brim, very warm and touched. It is so joyful to be cared about and taken into consideration. Fu Chenexai just took off his coat and threw it aside, picked up the brown sugar water, scooped up a spoonful of brown sugar water and fed it to Zhang Xiaoxiao's lips. "Open your mouth." Zhang Xiao opened his mouth obediently to drink water. The warm brown sugar water flowed into his stomach from his throat, and instantly he felt much warmer. Fu Chenexai's handsome brows were full of seriousness, and he pursed his thin lips, as if he was doing something very important. Zhang Xiaoxiao cooperated with the boss to finish a bowl of brown sugar water. Fu Chenexai wiped away the remaining water stains on the corner of her mouth with a tissue, and said in a gentle voice, "Is it feeling better?" At that moment, Zhang Xiaoxiao felt like he was in love. His heart was beating wildly, a rush of blood rushed to his forehead, and he suddenly approached Fu Chenexai. Fu Chenexai felt a pain in his jaw, and a sweet softness hit his lips. He quickly reached out to hug someone, a trace of surprise flashed in his cold eyes, and he looked down at Zhang Xiaoxi. Zhang Xiaoxiao's face was flushed, and her black round eyes were sparkling. When Fu Chenexai looked at her, she naughtily bit his lip. Fu Chenexai. His pupils were dark, and he felt a fire burning in his heart. He tightened his arms holding Zhang Xiaoxi. Zhang Xiao didn't know what was wrong with her, but she suddenly wanted to kiss a man. This was the first time in her 20s that she took the initiative to kiss a man, and the feeling was so strange. Fu Jianxiu didn't close his eyes, a pair of cold eyes locked on Zhang Shishi darkly. In the cold eyes, as dark as the deep sea, it seemed that the whole world had nothing to do with her. Zhang Xiaoxiu's long black eyelashes trembled slightly. She didn't dare to look directly into the big man's eyes and wanted to leave in a panic. Seeing that she wanted to escape, Fu Jianxiu immediately turned from passive to active, tightly holding her in his arms and not kissing her. Well, Fu Jianxiu only let go of Zhang Xiao when she couldn't keep up with her breathing. He said in a hoarse voice, "Xiao Xiao, don't let me go." Zhang Xiaoxiu's face was bright red, his eyes were misty as he looked at Fu Jianxiu, his mouth was bright red, and he said coquettishly, "I don't have one." "Really not?" Fu Jianxiu held Zhang Xiaoxiao and brought her closer to him, blowing hot air on her ears. "Yes or no?" "Huh." Zhang Xiao's face turned red and she didn't dare to look at the boss because she felt the change in him. She pushed him shamefully and said, "Uncle Wu, let me go quickly, I have a stomachache." Fu Jianxiu's eyes twitched twice. This little girl is so timid. How dare she tease her? He didn't have the courage to bear the consequences, but it was rare for a little girl to take the initiative, and this was definitely a qualitative leap. He let go of her and said quietly, "When I was young, Uncle Wu never had any self-control over you, do you know that?" Zhang Xiaoxiao curled his lips and said silently in his heart that he had no self-control over her. He was a fake and a liar. He also had no self-control over that Wenyuaru. "Lie down for a while. Uncle Wu will go change your clothes and take you out to eat." Fu Jianxiu disappeared into Zhang Xiaoxi's room with a fire all over him. Zhang Xiao did not lie down, but got up, changed his clothes, and went downstairs to wait for the boss. When Yi Changji saw Zhang Xiaoxiao downstairs, he ran up in a hurry. "It's time to do Uncle Yi a favor." End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 178. Chapter 178. Chapter 178. There will be no pie in the sky. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at the flattering smile on Yi Changji's face and intuitively told her not to agree. "Uncle Yi, I'm sick." "Are you sick? In your eyes? Have you seen a doctor?" Yi Changji touched Zhang Xiao's forehead worriedly. Zhang Xiao lied with a calm face and a calm heart, "It's not serious, Uncle Yi, have you eaten? Uncle Wu and I are about to go out for dinner. Do you want to go?" Zhang Xiao changed the topic. Yi Changji touched his belly and said with a smile, "I have to go, I happen to have no meal." "Well, Uncle Yi, let's go to the garage and wait for Uncle Wu." Zhang Xiaoxiao thought he had successfully changed the topic. Yi Changji took out a box from his coat and handed it to Zhang Xiaoxi. Zhang Shishi stared at Yi Changji strangely. "Uncle Yi, what are you doing?" "This is a gift for you," Yi Changji said. Zhang didn't pick it up when she was young, because her mother had taught her since she was a child that pie would not fall from the sky. Plus, Yi Changji just asked her to help, so she was even more afraid to pick it up. "Uncle Yi, what are you doing with the gift you gave me? I don't want you to take it back." Zhang Xiaoxi refused his gift. Yi Changji forced the gift into her hand. "When I was young, this is a top quality jade that Uncle Yi received from Burma City 2 days ago. It can be made into jewelry for you and Niu Niu." Zhang Shi. "When I was young, Uncle Yi had a little." Before Yi Changji finished speaking, Zhang Xiaoxi's phone rang. It was a video sent by Chu Hanyu. Zhang Xiaoxi connected the video, and Chu Hanyu's iconic hot tone came from the other end of the phone. Don't accept the gift from Yi Changji." Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at the box in his hand, and then glanced at Yi Changji, whose face had turned stiff. "Xiaoxiao, do you know the trash we met in Rose, that trash with red hair is a relative of Yi Changji, or an illegitimate child, Chu Hanyu said with anger. Zhang Xiao's face darkened, and he quickly returned the gift to Yi Changji. Translated by Yi Chang. Child, I tell you to ignore Yi Changji. Uncle Fu Wu has already said hello to the people over there. Those will stay in jail for at least 7 or 8 years. Zhang Xiao thought that if Fu Chenxiu hadn't arrived that night, he would have been harmed, so he even looked at Yi Changji with contempt. Helping those scumbags is like approving their actions. Yi Changji looked at Zhang Xiaoxi's contemptuous eyes, and the smile on his face froze. In fact, he didn't want to come to Fu's house to ask for Zhang Xiaoxi. If his grandfather hadn't said that he would stop his mother from forcing him to marry, he wouldn't have come. Speak for those scumbags. Child, listen to Uncle Yi's explanation. Uncle Yi believes that you can understand Uncle Yi's difficulty better than that girl Niuni. Yi Changji tried to explain. Yi Changji, you are a bad person who helps the emperor to do evil. Don't believe his sweet words. Chu Han's voice almost burst Zhang Shi's eardrums. Yes, I know. Zhang Xiaoxi turned off the video, stared at Yi Changji, and answered Yi Changji seriously, Uncle Yi, I will not make any retreat in this matter. I'm not young, please listen to Uncle Yi first before making a decision. Okay. Yi Changji was still struggling. Zhang Xiaoxi looked at Yi Changji and waited for his explanation. When I was little, Uncle Yi knew that they bullied you, but the boss punished you too harshly. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 179. Chapter 179. Chapter 179. Is it a good match? I don't think. Zhang Xiao thought that she was not a holy lady with a compassionate heart. Those that night seemed to be the first time they bullied people. If some girls were not protected by big men like her, I don't know how. Being bullied has nowhere to redress. Uncle Yi, they may not be the only one who bullied me. No, this is the first time I came to plead for you when I was young. Uncle Yi will definitely investigate. Clearly Yi Changji quickly explained that if that person was a habitual offender, he would never agree to his grandfather's plea. Zhang Xiao frowned and did not speak to Yi Changji. Yi Changji started to play the emotional card, and he said, when I was young, as you know, Uncle Yi had gynophobia and would be frightened when he saw women. Unfortunately, your fifth uncle has not been protecting me recently. My mother goes to my place every day with all kinds of women stuffed into him. Uncle Yi has been sleeping in the bridge hole for several days. Zhang Shi. Xiao, that and trash was sentenced to 10 years and his arm was broken by the boss. Do you think you can just imprison him for 5 years? Yi Changji said to Zhang Xiao in a consultative tone. Zhang Xiao looked at Yi Changji blankly, not digesting the news. The red-haired man's arm was discounted by the boss. But she was narrating at the time and didn't see the boss take action. The boss just kicked the red-haired man in the beginning. Why did he get a discount? Also, she thought that she would only be imprisoned for 2 or 3 years at most to teach them a lesson, but she didn't expect that she would be imprisoned for 10 years. Such a punishment was a little severe. When I was little, look, you pitted Uncle Yi. Zhang Xiaoxiu's will was a little loosened. Looking at Yi Changji's pitiful handsome face, he really couldn't say no to refuse. Okay. What's good? Fu Chenxiu's cold voice came from behind. Zhang Xiao turned his head to look at the boss in shock. Fu Chenxiu squinted and stared at Yi Changji, his voice cold. I will help you solve the woman's matter. As for that garbage matter, there is no need to discuss it. Okay, thank you, boss. Yi Changji agreed so quickly that Zhang Xiao didn't even react. The person who had pitted Zixi just now was now standing next to her with a smile on his face. He was really awesome. Zhang was taken to a Chinese restaurant by Fu Chenexai when he was young. Of course, there was also Yi Changji as a follower. The decoration of the Chinese restaurant is very tasteful, just like the one in the 1970s and 1980s. Zhang Xiao watched it all the way and followed the boss to the private room. Fu Chenexai ordered a lot of nutritious dishes. While waiting for the food, Yi Changji, a talkative man, couldn't help but said, "Boss, I heard that Wenyu went to your house yesterday." Boss, is that a blind date arranged by the old man for you?" Yi Changji continued to ask gossipily. This amplified Yi Changji's curiosity countless times. "Boss, I remember that you was pursuing you hard back then. It's really fate that you two are on a blind date together. But the old man is also awesome. Even you is digging him. Come out, boss, you and Yuru are a perfect match, and her brother's status is unmatched. Is it worthy, Uncle Yi? I don't think it is worthy at all." Before Fu Chenexai could speak, Zhang Xiaoxio's strange voice came out first, and his black eyes were burning with fire as he glared at Yi Changji. "When I was young, it's understandable that you don't like Zhou Yuling and Uncle Yi, but this Wenyuru is absolutely outstanding and has a great character." Yi Changji had a very good impression of Wenyuru. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 180. Chapter 180. Chapter 180 was targeted the same way. "Uncle Yi, you have such a good impression of Wenyuru, then why didn't you pursue him?" Zhang Xiao said angrily, grinding his teeth. Until now, Yi Changji has not noticed that the tone of Zhang Xiaoxi's words is wrong. "Like a fool, Xiao Xiao, don't you know that Uncle Yi has gynophobia? Uncle Yi can't avoid beautiful women. Uncle Yi, who do you think is better looking, me or Wenyuru?" Zhang Shishi seemed to ask casually, but his dark eyes were staring at Yi Changji seriously. "Of course it's Wenyuru," Yi Changji said without thinking, and looked at Zhang Xiaoxi with a comforting expression. "Xiao Xiao, it's not Uncle Yi who is attacking you." Wenyuru raises his hand and talks like a lady from a well-known family. "Haifan, you are still a young girl, so don't compete with her." Zhang Xiaoxio's little face stretched out when he heard Yi Chang's words. Yu Xiong's mouth was stuffy, and he poured himself a cup of tea and drank water to relieve his unhappiness. "When I'm young, I'll also help Uncle Yi get a glass of water." Yi Changji handed over his quilt. Zhang Xiaoxi placed the teapot heavily in Yi Changji's hand, with an unhappy expression on his face, and said fiercely, "Pour it yourself." Yi Chang translated. "What's going on?" Fu Chenexai looked at Zhang Xiaoxi with soft eyes and a slight smile on the corner of his mouth. After finishing the meal, Yi Changji felt like he was being targeted. For example, if he wanted to eat something, Zhang Xiaoxi would immediately hold out his chopsticks, and then Fu Chenexai would put the dish in front of Zhang Xiaoxi and threaten him with his eyes. "Don't compete with Zhang Xiao." So after finishing the meal, Yi Changji didn't take a few bites of food, and he's still hungry. "Boss, I have something else to do, so I will go back without following you." Yi Changji was about to sneak away to fill his stomach. Zhang didn't give him a chance when he was young. The little devil in his heart was evil, and his black eyes rolled around. "Uncle Yi, the fifth uncle was drinking just now, and I can't drive. I'm afraid it won't be good for you to leave like this bar." "Have you been drinking?" Yi Changji looked at Zhang Xiaoxi confusedly. If he remembered correctly, he didn't serve wine just now. Where did the boss go to drink? Zhang Xiaoxio's eyes were curved and his mouth was smiling. "Uncle Yi, we just had another dish of drunken duck, which was cooked with white wine. You were the only one who didn't eat any of it." Yi Chang translated. "He also wants to eat that drunken duck." Zhang Xiao brought the duck to the boss and asked him to eat more, but the boss didn't give him a bite. He is too miserable. Yi Changji felt aggrieved and took the key from Fu Chenexai. Zhang Xiaoxiao sat in the back seat and felt happy. Seeing that they were halfway through the journey and were about to return to Nangziyuan, Zhang Xiaoxiao spoke again, "Uncle Yi, I want to go shopping, please stop the car." Translated by Yi Chang. Our, Uncle Yi. Yi Changji wanted to find an excuse to leave first, but Zhang Shi refused to let go. "Uncle Yi, the fifth uncle didn't bring his bank card." Yi Changji silently handed over his bank card. At this time, his stomach had already growled several times, and he weakly and helplessly asked Fu Jianxiu for help. Fu Jianxiu's eyes remained on Zhang Shishi, without even looking at Yi Changji. Translated by Yi Chang. "Uncle Yi, you can have a late night snack here while Uncle Wu and I finish shopping in the mall, then take us back." Zhang Xiaoshi's words were like the sound of nature. Yi Changji originally thought that the little girl would drag him along for a stroll. Fortunately, she still had some conscience and nodded quickly, "I'll wait for you here." Zhang Xiao was walking side by side with Fu Jianxiu. "Are you happy? Thank you for your monthly vote, Baby Sue, please vote for me." End of this chapter.